Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Umineko. It definitely seems like we're winding down now. The end is nigh, as they say. And I think Battler's sort of at the point where he's like, yeah, we're gonna die anyway. So he decides to flop onto the sofa and plunk his feet onto the top of the table. Maybe all of these murders had paralyzed my heart. Instead of just being frightened, I felt completely confused. Dad and Kyrie-san died, and starting with the servants, people have been killed off one by one. And there's been a heck of a lot of time, a lot of them by now. I don't know what time the first murder started, but they probably weren't killed at the speed of a single person. We believe that the boat will come for us around 9 tomorrow. There's still a full 12 hours until then. How many more sacrifices to the witch will there have to be for us to survive? With the 4 of us, if one goes each hour, we won't last any longer than 4 hours. We don't even know if we'll last until midnight tonight. Yesterday after lunch, we came into this parlor. About the time the discussion had turned to the black tea that Aunt Rosa had bought or something. We kids had started talking about going to take a walk. Maria had been fooling around. Hadn't Shannon-chan brought us some cookies? She had said that Kumasawa-san had baked them or something. I'd probably have laughed if she actually baked some mackerel in them. That's right. I'll never hear Kumasawa-ba-chan's mackerel jokes again, will I? Oh yeah. If I only remember stuff about Kumasawa-ba-chan, that wouldn't be fair to everyone else. Why did Dad and Kyrie-san even go outside? It's not like we'd die from being without food for a day. And yet, why did Gluttony get a hold of them and make them go to get food? I bet that Dad was trying to act tough and started complaining about being hungry. Kyrie-san, you were supposed to be the brakes for my reckless dad. Why didn't you stop him? And what about your daughter, Angie? She's still 6 years old. You weren't thinking of entrusting her to me, were you? It's doubtful that even I'll be able to leave this island alive.
やめなさい。こんな時に争ってどうするんですか。ジェシカさん、やめなさい。
It's been kind of noisy for a while. By the time I looked up to see what it was, Jessica and Aunt Eva had suddenly started fighting each other. No, maybe I should say that Jessica was grabbing at Aunt Eva.
エヴァおばさんが父さんたちを殺したんだ。他に説明がつかない。何をバカなこと。あんたのお父さんたちなんか知るわけないでしょ。ゲストハウスの1階にいたのは誰だよ。エヴァおばさんだ。1階のロビーには父さんと母さんと、そしてエヴァおばさんがいた。生き残ったのは誰だ。エヴァおばさんだけだ。どうして。あんたが犯人だからに決まってるじゃないか。父さんと母さんを殺して外へ運び出して知らずらしく鍵を閉めて。
Good job, Eva.
魔女の仕業なんかを装いやがったんだ。じゃあジョージはどうしていなくなったのよ。1階には降りてきてないのよ。じゃあ2階でいなくなったっていうの。2階には誰がいたのよ。あなたたちがいたんじゃない。あなたは知ってたんでしょ。ジョージがこっそりゲストハウスを抜け出すのを。それを自分は何も知らないような顔を抜け抜けと。あんたがジョージを止めててくれれば。ジョージは
やめなさいというのに、ジェシカさんはずっといとこ部屋にいました。そしてエヴァさんもずっと1階のロビーにいました。そして2人とも何も悪くない。ただ家族を失って悲しいだけなんです。犯人なんか誰もいない。ただただ魔女のせいなだけなんです。だからお二人で憎み合うのはやめなさい。
the witch's fault. Is it? I wonder if that's a good way to mediate things for now. Yes. I finally understood why 3 people evaporated from the guest house when all of the doors and windows had been locked from the inside. This is what they were after. Making us think the culprit was inside and causing this ugly mutual hatred. Had to be the culprits. The witch's goal. But in that case, how had the culprit locked it from the outside? When Dad's group had been attacked, the master key had certainly been stolen. But the doors and windows to the guest house had been constructed so that you couldn't lock them from the outside no matter how hard you tried. So that master key shouldn't have meant anything for the guest house closed room. Jessica and Aunt Eva were turning their sadness at losing their blood relatives into anger at the person in front of them. Dr. Nanja was trying to step between them. And I sat on the sofa staring up at the ceiling, thinking about things that didn't even matter anymore with a worn-out expression. I just couldn't believe that this was the same parlor that had been so warm and pleasant midday yesterday. For just a short time before the typhoon hit. And this is why you don't trust people with guns. Gun safety, keep your finger off the trigger. The sudden sound of a gunshot shook me out of my half-asleep trance. Smoke was rising out of the barrel of the gun Aunt Eva held. Jessica had fallen on the floor, covering both her eyes. Aunt Eva and Dr. Nanja were looking down at her, shocked.
大丈夫ですかジェシカさんジェシカさん
I'm gonna wager no on that.
私のせいじゃないわよ。あんたがよせっていうのに突っかかってくるから。
おいおい、どうしたってんだ。何事なんだ。
Jessica had grabbed at Aunt Eva, and it had turned into a scuffle. Had they then started fighting over the gun Aunt Eva had been holding? Did some kind of impact cause the trigger to be pulled? I didn't know the details about whether the bullet had grazed her, or whether she had been burned by the discharge. But anyway, Jessica was covering both of her eyes, screaming, "It hurts, it hurts!" and rolling around on the floor.
大丈夫落ち着いて大した怪我ではありませんぞ気をしっかり
目が痛い痛い見えない見えない
Dr. Nanja let Jessica borrow his shoulder, saying that he would tend to her in the servant room. The servant room in this mansion had a bed and a first aid kit, and was able to function as an infirmary.
父さんと母さんの仇殺してやる殺してやる私じゃないわよ私じゃない
ジェシカさん傷に触りますからそれ以上騒がないでさあ使用人室に行きましょう
Jessica cursed on Eva, as her parents murdered her even more than she had before. It seemed that Aunt Eva couldn't conceal her trembling at the fact that she had pulled the trigger, even if it had been an accident.
私のせいじゃないわよあの子がつかみかかってきたからこんなことに私は殺してなんかないわよそれよりジョージは誰が殺したのそうよジョージは誰が殺したのよジョージジョージ私は悪くない私は悪くない
待てよエヴァおばさん一人になるな
I didn't know whether it was because Aunt Eva couldn't stand her mistake, or whether it was because she had given up control of her body to anger at the person who had killed her only son, or whether it was both of these all mixed together. Anyway, Yelling, fearful, and shouting, she ran out into the corridor. I was also worried about Jessica's condition, but anyway, right then, I couldn't leave Aunt Eva alone. Why would she go off on her own in this mansion of all places? Is she suicidal? Dr. Nanjo took Jessica towards the servant room. I chased after Aunt Eva, dashing into the depths of the mansion. And everyone died. That's what it looks like, doesn't it? I mean, this is pretty bad. After sitting Jessica on the servant room bed, Nanjo told her several times not to touch her eyes, and examined the affected area. The barrel had probably been near her eyes. There was a possibility that the flames from the discharge had injured her corneas. There was no threat to her life, but it would probably be necessary to have a suitable doctor look at her as soon as possible. Nanjo applied emergency first aid, covering the affected area with gauze and wrapping it with a bandage. As a result, Jessica completely lost her field of vision.
いいですかな。傷が痛んだりうずいたりするでしょうが、明日になったらすぐに眼科の先生のところへ行きましょう。
あいつね、本当は私を殺すつもりだったんだ。ほんのちょっと角度が悪かったら今頃殺されてた。絶対にあいつを警察へ突き出してやる。
エヴァさんはそんなことはしませんぞ。あれは事故です。
事故なもんか。あいつが父さんと母さんを殺し、この島には19人目も魔女もいるわけがない。あいつが全ての犯人なんだ。ゲストハウスの1階にはあいつだけがいた。父さんと母さんを殺し、それを見てしまったジョージ兄さんも口封じに殺したに違いない。
Oh, that's pretty brutal, isn't it?
小さまや使用人の人たちだってそうさ。きっとあいつは夕べの親族会議の途中でこっそり抜け出し、みんなを殺し。
もしそうならば警察が調べればすぐにわかることです。警察はすごいですぞ。鑑識の手にかかればわからぬことなどありません。私たちは誰かを疑ったり恨んだりする必要などないのです。すべて警察が解決してくれます。
Assuming you're alive long enough for them to resolve anything.
だからジェシカさんは今は体を休め、目を楽にすることに専念するのです。あまり眉間にシワを寄せては目にはもちろん美容にもよくありませんぞ。
In actuality, when Jessica grew agitated in her abuse of Eva, she'd naturally started glaring, and the pressure on her eyes hurt her. Jessica herself realized that the more that she talked, the more the wound would hurt. And regardless of whether she had overcome her suspicions of Eva, she regained her composure for the time being.
あいつが殺したんだ。父さん、母さん、シャノンやカノン君を。
She had heard that Canon had been killed in the chapel. Jessica still hadn't seen his face after he had died. Jessica was now less fearful about the fact that she was blinded, and more frightened that the police would carry Canon's body away while she still couldn't see, and that she would have to say her final farewell without being able to see his face. Her anger at the culprit and her sadness at the death of the person that she had liked. Those mixed emotions started her crying. But right now, tears were actually painful for her. So she wasn't even permitted to leisurely remember his face in bygone days. Jessica could do nothing but sit on the bed and let her head droop, withstanding the pain.
さて、今度はエヴァさんの方が心配です。気に病まれていなければいいのですが。
Realizing that Jessica had calmed down for the time being and letting out a sigh, he stuck his head out into the hallway to look for any sign of the others coming back. Oh, hi there. Yeah, you're gonna die. Sorry, Nanjo. Then their eyes met. Nanjo, unable to understand who this person was bewildered for an instant.
視力を失った人間って反魔法力も対魔法抵抗力もゼロになるんですって。
Well, isn't that convenient?
つまり今のあんたはアイソレーテッドポーン。意味がわかるかしら。
なんですと？
There was no reason Nanjo should have been able to understand who the person in front of him was. Furthermore, there was even less reason for him to understand what she had just said.
南條先生、どうしたんです？
Unable to see, Jessica couldn't tell what was going on except for by whatever voice she heard. But since she'd heard Nanjo say something with an uneasy tone, she tightened up, thinking that something bad might have happened.
やめてくれ。殺さないでくれ。わしには病弱の孫がおる。ここでは死ねんのだ。頼む、見逃してくれ。
南條先生、南條先生。
Jessica couldn't do anything except call out from the bed. Judging by the tone of his voice, Nanjo was in the corridor confronting someone. And he was scared. His life must have been threatened just a second ago.
よせ、やめろ。
Wow.
第9の晩に魔女はよみがえり
The witch pointed the end of her gold staff at Nanjo. Even though he didn't know what she was planning to do, Nanjo imagined that she must be trying to take his life.
南條先生、南條先生、そこに返事をしろよ。
やめてくれ。
A sharp sound echoed. And just as sharply, the tip of the golden staff tapered and stretched, slicing into Nanjo's forehead. Jessica, who could only try to grasp what was happening with her ears, had no clue what was going on. But even so, she was able to realize that with that sound, Nanjo had died. Ooh, let's learn what's happening. Let's see, where are you, Nanjo? Mansion servant's room. The weapon is assumed to be a gun or a spear-shaped object. Just a little longer and he probably would have been able to return alive. However, in the end, the witch did not permit that. And that person was now in the corridor, right in front of the servant room. Furthermore, since she couldn't see, she wouldn't be able to run away, much less resist. Knowing that she was a mouse in a trap and in a life-or-death situation, Jessica shuddered.
ああ、ジェシカ、かわいそうにね。目を怪我しちゃったのね。ならあなたは逃げることもできないわね。今から南條の死体でたっぷり遊ぶわ。それに飽きたら次はあなたを殺してたっぷり遊んであげる。いいえ、せっかく目が見えないんだもの。殺してからだけじゃない、殺す前にもたっぷり遊んであげるわね。そこでしばらく震えながら待ってなさいね。南條の死体で私がどんな風に遊ぶのかをたっぷり想像しながら。
Jessica was struck with fear and let out a frail scream. She really wanted to scream in a much louder voice, trying to get someone to help her. But she couldn't. When faced with true fear, it clogs up a person's throat. Right now, Jessica could barely even breathe. She searched around with her hands, trying to find some way to escape. But even though she should have known this room well, just being unable to see made it like a closed room of darkness. She ran into a shelf or something, and something like a candy jar, and candy fell down, hitting her on the head. As she was now, it was doubtful that she would even protect her head to block it. She was painfully aware of how powerless humans became just by losing their sense of sight. Of course, she had no time to admire that. At any rate, she crawled around, trying to escape that place. But she kept bumping into things that she didn't understand, getting hit by various falling objects. And it felt like the entire room was alive, bullying her and refusing to let her escape. Then, a footstep could be heard from the presence in the hallway. And then a voice. She'd probably peered into the room since Jessica had been so noisy.
賑やかね。レディーならおとなしくベッドに座って待っていなさい。令状にふさわしい素敵な真っ赤な死に装束を与えてやるんだから。あなたを見つけた人が失神してしまいそうになるくらいのね。
Oh man, the voice acting is spot on. Until just a second ago, she had sworn that she would kill the culprit if she found them. However, she was now very powerless. She couldn't do anything except let out a scream, crawling around on the floor and bumping her head into the bed and into the legs of desks. In the corridor, is the witch thought of how to toy with Nanjer's life. A single gold butterfly secretly watched that scene from the corner of the hallway. That's gotta be rough, isn't it? Like knowing that impending doom is coming and you can't even see? Oh man, and that voice acting is spot on. It's kinda sends chills up your spine, doesn't it? It was Beto, who had barely escaped with her life once before. The gold butterfly softly returned to human form. Its form was faint and transparent like a lace curtain. Even just the power to preserve a human form had become scarce for her. Right next to her, Ronove also appeared.
ジェシカも生き残れはしないでしょう。もとより誰も生き残れはしませんが。
あやつはカノンに恋心を寄せておく。わらわはそれをもてあそんだこともある。しかしそれは魔女として恥ずべきことであった。愛とは一なる元素。恋心はそれ以上に純粋で尊いものでございます。なぜかお嬢様はとてもそれを嫌われますが。 お師匠様は言った。魔法とは人を幸せにするためにあると。わらわもかつてはそれを知っていたはずだった。そしてそれを忘れた時からわらわは魔女ではなくなっていたのだ。だからわらわはバトラの対戦相手の資格を失っていたのだ。
ジェシカを助けるおつもりですか。危険です。確かにそれを行うことは良き魔女として称えられることでしょう。
分かってもどうせ助けても黄金鏡の扉が開けば魔女の宴の慰み者。しかしそれでもあやつの殺し方に比べれば数段慈悲深い。魔女の宴恐るべき方法にて命を奪う。二度は奪わぬ。生死をもてあそばぬ。しかしあやつは違う。何度でも殺す。面白半分で殺す。そこにはわずかほどの慈悲もない。わらわは責めたジェシカ。それ のような残酷な運命を救いた
確かにそれを行うことは良き魔女として称えられることでしょう。しかし新しきベアトリーチェ様はすでにお嬢様のことを敵視なされています。もう一度姿を見られることがあったなら今度は逃れる術はありません。
ジョージをシャノンに会わせた時、わらわはこう言った。魔女とはどういうものなのか、そして魔法とはどういうものなのかを。わらわは魔女だ。魔女であらねばならぬ。そしてバトラーの対戦相手だと認める。今度こそバトラーにはなので険しいかもしれない。しかし今ここでその一歩を踏み出さねば、わらわは魔女を名乗れぬのだ。
お気持ちはわかりますが、どうやってお救いになるつもりです？今のお嬢様の身に使える魔法は多くありません。シャノンを蘇らせる時ですらジョージの力を借りたではありませんか。
だからこそジェシカだけは救えるかもしれぬのだ。今あやつはカノンに助けを求めている。その思いの力を借りれば、わらわの魔力にてもう一度冥府の扉を叩けるかもしれない。
叩けはするでしょう。しかし魔力を使い切ります。新しきベアトリーチェ様にもし見つかったら本当に逃れる術はありませんよ。私はすでにお嬢様の執事ではありません。いざという時お助けすることはできませんのでご了承。
承知しておるわ。わらわはこれまで数えることもできぬほどの命をもてあそび、ならばその罪、同じ数だけの命を救うことでしかあがないのかもしれん。もとよりわらわに失うものなどないわ。名も魔力も引き継ぎ、今や魔女とも認められぬただの黄金の蝶よ。
バトラ様はどうなさるのですか？ゲームの途中です。彼はお嬢様がお戻りになるまで待つとおっしゃいました。ここで果てるようなことがあっても良いのですか？お嬢様にはバトラ様の向かいの席に戻る義務があるのですよ。
だからこそだ。わらわにしか救えぬ命があるならば、わらわはそれを救う。そして魔女と認められるぞ。わらわは魔女にならねばならぬのだ。これが試練であるならば、これまでの悪行に見合わぬ幼稚なものよ。さあ姿を消せ、ロノウ。かつて黄金の魔女と呼ばれた一匹の蝶の最後となるかもしれぬ魔法を見るがいい。
かしこまりました。黄金の魔女の名に恥じぬ魔法を拝見させてもらいます。願わくばそれが最後の魔法とならぬこと。
行け。もしインクが足りるなら、我が愚かなる生涯を記して同じ道を歩もうとする愚か者に手渡す。さらばだ、ロノウ。
This may turn out to be an unexpected event here. I didn't really expect Beatrice to do anything remotely like this.
どこにいるの？どこにいるの？
As much as it pains me to do this, I think we're going to save this for next time. This is pretty interesting. So, the very fact that they're saying that this might make it so that Beatrice can't continue her battle with Battler, makes it sound like she actually would die from this. I thought it was, like... It's kind of hard to tell, because there's, like, two versions of both Beatrice and... You know, there's a game version of Battler and a meta-world version of Battler, and... It's kind of hard to tell, but based upon how they're talking, it makes it sound like if she died here, she would actually die in the meta-world as well. Which wouldn't be good for our game. I sure hope she survives. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time for some more Umineko. Bye!